lights. We're looking out.
Yeah, I mean, you need the same tools, or I guess similar tools.
Yeah, did they say it was moving at 800,000 kilometers per second or something? I was like, I can't even fathom this number.
Something insane. And it's funny because he just like kind of was like, okay, yeah, we'll talk about that later. That's how fast it's moving. And it's like, excuse me, say what? I also
he
think
kind
it's
of wrapped
cool.
it up there. He really quick, didn't he? He said, "Yep, that just means it's fast." I was like, "Okay, too fast for me to comprehend, right?"
Yeah, the scale is just too crazy. So I think the moral of the story here is that if you're trying to see the colors tonight, pretty much now through midnight would be best, because after midnight, that's when the moonrise happens, so you wouldn't be able to see it as well with your phone or a long exposure camera. If you have those correct settings, as Claire mentioned, that would be best if you're trying to see those. But other than that, Claire, you said it too. It kind of just takes a little bit of luck to see if we can get a nice little explosion of CME activity.
That's right. And, even for us in the Triad, too, tonight, before midnight's best, because we do have some clouds kind of coming in from the northwest, too, that'll probably hinder some of that viewing just after midnight, too. So that's another thing to keep in mind, especially if you're going to be heading out over the next couple of hours or later on tonight, too.
I also find it so interesting sometimes that like the meteorologists and the weather enthusiasts, as James knows, we're always asked the most, right, about space weather, and you have to kind of explain to people like this is not really what we study. We can, understand a lot of it, and we can look it up, but that's not necessarily what meteorology is about.
It's like when there's an earthquake.
It's not exactly our area of expertise, but being the scientist of the station, we gotta do our research, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point, James. Yeah, it's like when an earthquake happens, you're like, well, technically that's geology, but I know a little bit.
Right.
Like I can tell you a little bit about it, but not necessarily. One thing I thought that was funny was that when we were talking about the coronal mass ejection, I had to almost go back and re-look up. I'm like, I know in general what it is. It's the explosion of the expulsion of the plasma and the magnetic field, but the actual way that it works is way too complicated for me to understand. But I'm like, it's just an explosion of solar activity.
Right, and even how it affects the Earth too is very scientific and kind of goes over my head a little bit too. I definitely had to read up as well too every time we get this rare experience. So.
Yeah. So again, if you guys are trying to catch some of the views, you want to look north over the horizon, make sure that you have those cameras ready to go. The naked eye is going to be much, much less likely, much less possible. And actually, before we go, if we want to pop up our Weather One computer, the one at WCNC, I do have the little forecast where it kind of shows you where viewing would be most likely based on what's currently happening. So current forecast calls for at a maximum about a 7.67, which is between the 7 and 8. And you can see there we are. We're smack dab in the middle. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, y'all. If you get pictures and videos, send them our way, and have a great evening.
Hi, everyone. Jane Monreal here with you. It is just after 7 p.m. on a Wednesday. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Right now, we do know that the House is meeting and they are putting the bill that they hope to close in on and vote on later tonight. We expect that vote to happen very shortly, but we are following things right now here on WCNC Plus. Let's go ahead and listen in live here on Live Impact News.
Recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of Senate amendment to H.R. 5371, which will finally put an end to the Democrat-led government shutdown. Millions of Americans have suffered because they refuse to reopen the government, harming those who depend on SNAP benefits, federal workers, Border Patrol agents, and our troops who are uncertain about their next paycheck. This legislation extends government funding to the end of January 2026, thereby blocking attempts to force a budget-busting omnibus at the last minute before Christmas. It also includes the FY 2026 Agriculture, Rural Development, and Food and Drug Administration Appropriations Act. Republicans have effectively locked in disciplined, flat spending levels while supporting the Trump administration's policy priorities. The agriculture bill provides $26.65 billion in discretionary spending, which is level with the current amounts while also including community project funding. This bill provides critical funding support to America's farmers, ranchers, and rural communities. It ensures both USDA and FDA can safeguard our nation's food and drug supply and fully funds nutrition programs, including SNAP and WIC. Additionally, the bill closes the hemp loophole that has resulted in the spread of unregulated, intoxicating hemp-derived products that are being sold online and in gas stations and corner stores across the country. Many of these products are accessible and attractive to children, resulting in thousands of calls to U.S. poison control centers, with more than 30% involving children aged 5 years and younger. This provision is supported by 39 states' attorney general and over 81 national and state public health, medical, law enforcement, and other organizations. It's beyond disappointing that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle will soon be voting to continue the chaos and uncertainty of a government shutdown. But this is what responsible Republican government looks like. We stared down the radical Democrats' outrageous budget-busting demands and held the line for hardworking American taxpayers. I want to thank Appropriations Chairman Cole for his leadership, strongly encourage my colleagues to support this legislation. Mr. Chair, I yield back time.
The gentleman from Maryland yields back. Does the gentleman from Oklahoma reserve? I do. The gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from New York, the distinguished ranking member of the Legislative Branch Subcommittee, Mr. Espaillat.
The gentleman from New York is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in strong opposition to the Senate's amendment to H.R. 5371 because once again the Senate has put other interests ahead of those of the American people. Today's backroom deal does nothing to stop 20 million Americans that will see their health care premiums double or triple. And it does absolutely nothing to stop provisions in the reconciliation package that will strip 15 million people of the Medicaid coverage. These cuts will have a resounding impact for individuals and the healthcare industry and economy as a whole. Safety net hospitals like Montefiore in my district and federally funded clinics like Borinque in East Harlem face having to eliminate services or completely close. Families, seniors, and children who go to these clinics and hospitals cannot afford to lose health care coverage. On top of that, Mr. Speaker, the legislative branch bill, which was done unilaterally, not with the consultation of both sides, it was done on its own, in the Senate, in the dark, in cahoots with a bunch of people, includes a provision that will line the pockets of 8 senators that we know of by allowing them to sue the government for millions of dollars if the Department of Justice subpoenas their phone records or seeks a lawful non-disclosure order. While families in my district are stretching every single dollar just to pay for food and rent, senators want a personal payout if law enforcement dares to hold them accountable. At every turn of this shutdown, and fight for health care access, Republicans and the Trump administration have tried to inflict suffering as much as possible. For weeks, the administration held food stamps hostage. And even when some states comply with a court ruling to release full benefits, the president demanded that they be clawed back. Even when governors stepped up and said, we don't want people to go hungry, they ran to court, Mr. Speaker, to take $6.20 away from poor people. Who does that? Explain that to me. Who takes $6.20 away from a single mom or a hungry senior? That's the state of America today. Unbelievable. And here we are to vote on this. I will be casting my vote as a no. In fact, it will be a hell no tonight.
The gentleman from New York yields back. The gentlelady from Connecticut reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to my very good friend, the distinguished gentlelady from Michigan and chairman of the House Republican Conference, Ms. McClain.
The gentlelady from Michigan is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. And God, I love the compassion and the passion on the other side of the aisle. You know, we're worried about taking money out of families. Well, you know what? Y'all can do the right thing and vote yes. If not, you're the ones that are taking money from needy families, not us, because yes means yes, we want to feed the families. We want to have SNAP programs. No means we don't fund those programs. See how simple that is? But keep on with the rhetoric. I mean, it's cute, but the American people don't buy it. So, I mean, listen, for the past 40 days, Democrats have inflicted needless pain on hardworking Americans. They stranded millions of travelers. They denied food assistance for hungry families. And how did they do that? When you vote no to continue funding, that means you deny food stamps for hungry families. No means no, you don't want to pay them. Yes, like the Republicans vote, that means yes, we do want to pay them. So, you know, they left our...
Yeah, all right, everybody. While they continue the debate there on the House floor, a vote is expected here in a moment. As soon as that happens, we will go back to it here on Live Impact News. But right now, we are going to put a highlight on something else that is happening here in the Queen City because we have John Sanchez. He is the frontman of a local heavy music act. Can I call it heavy music?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, yeah, absolutely. And it's called Screwed Ends. I like the name.
Thank you.
All right. Not here just to talk about the music, the riffs, but there's also something special coming up on Black Friday, November 28th. John, thanks for joining us here. Nathaniel is here as well. He's actually our assignment desk digital producer extraordinaire. I mean, he's so many things, Nathaniel. And you've got the connects with the music world, definitely the metal world here in Charlotte. So cool. I love the variety, and I love what you're doing here, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
What is going to be happening here on November 28th?
So yeah, Black Friday, we're doing a toy drive. The local shows, there'll be 6 bands, a toy drive, everything that we can get donated, toys, all that stuff is going to be going straight to the Levine Children's Hospital, straight to them, you know, trying to help support these kids that are spending the holidays in the hospital and not with their families. Just want to make sure that they have a bright holiday, just as anyone else wants to have.
Why Levine Children's Hospital specifically?
So I'm fairly new to Charlotte. I've only been here a couple of years, so that's really the only one I know. I've actually taken one of my kids there when they were sick. You know, they were super great.
Okay, great.
There's super nice staff. So just something to help give to it. And that, and my wife actually works for the Atrium healthcare system. So she was just like, hey, how about them right away? Because I was like, oh, well, who would I do it for, or who would I donate or give the donations to? And right away she was like, Atrium Living. I was like, all right, let me look into it. And you know, right away, of course, once I got in contact with them, immediately they got back a hold of me and was like, yeah, let's do this. We appreciate everything. We want to run this.
That's totally rad. And Nathaniel, how did you come into connection with John?
To put it bluntly, he just reached out to us.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
through our email, and so that's just a huge caveat I have to anyone who has anything that they want to share with us. You know, we're checking our emails and we're looking, and I saw this and I thought this blends two things that are really awesome for me: heavy music and you know, helping the community and helping children. So really neat that we were able to get him in here to kind of promote this.
Yeah, I
that we
mean,
got going on.
we kind of not confuse the misconception that heavy music doesn't mean you have heart, doesn't mean you don't have heart, right?
Exactly. That's the whole point, is trying to break the stigma of the initial reaction of people. If people see me on the street, unfortunately, I mean, I have a head tattoo. My ears are obviously stretched out, piercings, tattoos. You know, they don't think the best of me just off first glance. But no, I'm a father of 3. I have kids. I take care of my kids. I'm a family man. You know, but I was telling Nathaniel earlier, there's 5 members in my band. Between the 5 of us, 3 of us are dads. We have 8 kids in the band.
Well, aren't you guys just sweethearts?
Yeah, so this is just something that really means a lot to us. Not only, you know, being able to play music locally and getting the community involved, but getting the community involved for a great cause, you know, for the kids.
All right, let's talk about this toy drive. What kinds of toys are you looking for?
So basically anything, you know, anything within reason, of course. We talking to the hospital, they're really looking for, you know, stuffed animals, toys, as far as like action figures, Barbie dolls, a lot of stuff. You know,
All ages.
Yeah, exactly, all ages. So whenever people hear toy drives for kids, they automatically go towards the little kids.
Sure.
Like I said, the stuffed animals, the Barbies, the action figures, toy trucks, but they forget about the teenagers. There's teenagers in the hospital
right.
still too. So we're trying to push for, you know, makeup kits for the girls, baseballs, footballs, basketballs for the boys, or anything video game related, or you know, room aesthetic, decor related, that would help make a teenager happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's not
sure.
just about the little kids. Yeah, sure, it's great, but there's other kids that don't get as much because people don't really think about that when they're donating to kids.
Right, yeah, the neglected population for kids. All right, do they go to your show on November 28th? Where and when?
So, I mean, if I can give some kind of way, I guess, to contact me directly via email,
Okay.
I'll be more than happy to try to pick anything up from around the city. That's not a problem for me.
Oh, wow.
The main thing is the show.
Okay.
The toy. All you got to do is bring in a brand new toy, unwrapped, brand new, or stuffed animal that still has the tag on that. They made that very clear. It has to have the tag on it.
Okay.
And then you're in. You get to watch a local band for the cost of a new toy.
All right, where are you performing?
The Milestone.
And what about this venue? What can you tell us about this this place?
So I performed there a couple times. I've come to learn that it's a very historic venue to Charlotte. I mean, it's been around for ages. I mean, you've had bands like REM play there before. They were
Awesome.
big. Nirvana's very first live album was recorded there in the early 90s. So it's a very historic place. Not much to glance at from the outside, but, you know, when you get the community involved and see, you know, people pack out this room just to listen to local music, it's an incredible feeling.
Wow, if you're playing there already, REM and
Definitely great names to follow.
Yeah,
Sure,
impressive.
that was like
Nirvana,
30
yeah.
plus years ago, but still, just being in that same room, that okay, something happened here. It's
all right, no, you've got some I don't know, chutzpah. And describe the music. Describe the kind of show you're going to see.
So it's predominantly going to be a hardcore show. Most of the bands are hardcore, minus the final act, Reflect Refine, it's more of a progressive metal type of band, but still great guys. The lead vocalist is my band's producer. Great band. But all the bands, we have one band, Torturous. It's going to be their very first show ever as a band, so that's going to be awesome for them. We have Lowest Point, still a younger group of guys, still trying to get their feet wet in the musical world, local world. They're playing too. We have a band called Two Stroke. They're more of a new core, new metal type of band, a real rap metal type thing. Really awesome guys. You have Alpha Strain. They've been around for a while in the local scene. They're doing great things. Of course, you have my band, Screwed Ins. We're more of the hardcore beatdown side. So it's all aggressive music, but it's all for a good cause. You know
All
what I
for a
mean?
good cause. Nathaniel, you hear their music? You've been exposed to their artistry so
absolutely.
far?
I mean, when you have hair like mine and you are somewhat of a music journalist like I am, you know, you get to know genres of music, kind of like their sports teams or kind of like their pyramids of like the food pyramid, you know.
Sure.
Like they're just things in my brain. But I think, could you kind of describe what is it hardcore? What is deathcore
So
in layman's terms?
So if you're talking to someone who has no idea what the subgenre is, metal. We play metal. You know what I mean? That's the broad spectrum. We play heavy music, we play metal. But when you break it down, you know, you have hardcore, you have beatdown, you have new metal. Like, it's all subgenres. Like hardcore came off of the punk scene back in the day, and it's like, okay, it's already aggressive, but now we're going to make it heavier and more aggressive, and just something to really be angry to and let your anger, aggression out to, and then you know, just progress from there. We can beat down like real more slower, down tuned, real heavy kind of stuff. And like I said, like new metal, new core. It's like a blend of like hip hop and metal, kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, gotta bring
some
that
rap flows over like guitar riffs and stuff like that. The progressive stuff, it's like really what it is, like just very progressive music and guitar stuff, like stuff you wouldn't ever expect to hear out of a guitar coming out of a guitar. Drum fills and stuff that are just kind of blow your mind, with vocals on top that just kind of just blend everything well together, and just kind of just makes you rethink what you think you know about music.
It's got to feel good to just let her rip like that. And then, you know, just laugh.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the music that's going to be played at the show is not for everybody. You know what I mean? Some people stick to what they like and what they know. That's perfectly fine. You know, but always want to broaden your horizon. I mean, you can go out to the show just to say, hey, I supported the community, and your next favorite band could be in that show. The next big band that comes out of the Carolinas could be at that show. You never know. You can say, hey, I saw them while I helped the community out by giving a toy. You know what I mean?
How is Charlotte's heavy music scene, Nathaniel?
It's pretty solid. You know, I try to get out as much as I can, but I would say that there's a lot of stuff going. I think it's very underground. I feel like it needs more of a voice, and that's what I try to do as much as I can here with the voice I have here at WCNC Charlotte. But I'd say the music scene here is pretty cool.
All right, that's
I think
nice.
Our engineer Corey will often like tell me about random bands, and the Milestone specifically. He's always like, "Hey, bro," he tells me like
check
once
out
a month.
Milestone.
He tells me like once a month, like, "Hey, bro, did you know Nirvana played at the Milestone?" So
wow,
it's a very iconic venue for people who have been around the Charlotte area for a long time.
Impressive. And you know what? You have heart.
Yeah. I mean,
underneath all that.
Yeah, not wanting to do it for, you know, the notoriety of it or like the clout of it. It's just, like I said, there's 8 kids within the 5 members of our bands. We all have been there to having to take our kids to the ER for whatever reason. So we just want to be able to give back to the community and say, hey, I may look crazy, but I care. You know,
you care,
I have a
exactly.
heart, you know what I mean?
And we care about people who care.
Learn to break that stigma of appearances.
Absolutely. We can dig that. We can all get on board with that. You want to shout out your email or contact in case, you know, you said you wanted to, if people want to contact you about donating toys if they can't make it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're wanting to donate or help out in any way, shape, or form, you can find us on Facebook, Screwed Ends, ENDS. Screwed Ends.
Screwed Ends.
I run the Facebook and the Instagram. You can reach out that way, or screwedendsband@gmail.com. I go straight to my phone. Like I said, if you have questions on how to help, or like, hey, I want to do this, but I don't want to go to the show, but I have some toys we can donate. Like I said, I don't mind driving. I'm not from Charlotte. I'm from San Antonio, Texas, which is a way bigger city, so I'm used to driving. You know what I mean? Obviously, the closer the better, but I'll drive to the airport. I'll drive Huntersville, wherever I need to help.
You're so sweet.
Fill this. Like I said, I want to get our tour van, and the only space available is the driver's seat for me to take it to the hospital. I want to pack that van as much as possible, donate as much as possible, and just, you know, show the local community that, you know, the music scene cares about the community.
Screwed Ends, November 28th at the Milestone. Showtime begins at 8.
8 o'clock. Yeah. Or is that doors? It kind of changes.
Doors might open
be doors,
at 8.
And then the show shows. It's a little later. You know,
right. I was
it's
like,
right
8 sounds a little
so
early
sure
for heavy.
Still have their time with their family. And
there you go.
Get there. But either way, from beginning to end, it's going to be a great show. A lot of great bands, great music. It's going to be a great time.
All right.
Have a great time.
Awesome. Anything else, Nathaniel?
No, that's all. I'm really glad that we were able to bring him in and promote this.
We
really
made it
cool
happen.
event. I'm glad that I was able to meet him. I'm also from Texas, so
yeah.
You know,
and I used to live in South Texas for a hot second as well. So cool all around. All right, fellas, we thank you.
I appreciate
all right,
the
Screwed
time.
Ends, November 28th. I like that. I just want to say Screwed Ends too. Let's take a quick break here. Nothing messed up about that. We'll see you in 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Time right now is 7:22. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We are following some breaking news right now. You may have learned that the DOJ is being told to release their files, their complete files on Jeffrey Epstein after seeing that some of the files leaked referencing President Trump. And this news coming down now. This is the bit we're learning that Speaker Johnson says the House will vote next week on whether to release those files. So that will be next week, a vote to release them. So we may or may not see them at all. But more to come as the nation is following that story. We're also following, of course, the vote from the House as they continue debating to end the government shutdown as they are on the House floor. The session is live. Let's go ahead and continue to listen in here on Live Impact News as we wait for a vote on this sometime tonight.
Proposal, Mr. Chairman. They said it's about health care for illegals. They repeal work requirements for able-bodied adults. That's a 80-20 issue in this country. They put forward a spending bill of $1.5 trillion. That's twice the discretionary budget. Mr. Chairman, they'd be spending more money than we've ever spent outside of COVID. That's their counter-proposal. It's not only disingenuous, it's unserious. So what's it about? It's about politics. It's about resisting and fighting and undermining Donald Trump. But here's the deal. They're not fighting and resisting Donald Trump. They're undermining the will of the American people that gave Trump the presidency.
Yield the gentleman an additional 15 seconds.
The gentleman is recognized.
They undermine the will of the people who overwhelmingly elected President Trump and gave him the mandate of the America First agenda. So you're not resisting us. You're posturing and placating the radical left. And you are holding back what the American people wanted, and that was a new direction for this country. I yield back.
Members are reminded to please direct their comments only to the chair. The gentleman from Oklahoma reserves. The gentlewoman from Connecticut is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from New Jersey, the distinguished ranking member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, Mr. Pallone.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want my colleagues to understand that when the Affordable Care Act was adopted, it was adopted for middle-class people who could not afford health insurance. They had no other option. They had nowhere to go. You just would end up without health insurance. I have constituents coming to me now crying because their insurance is going from $500 a month to $1,500 a month. That's an increase of $1,000 a month. Who can afford that? No one in the middle class. At the end of 2024, last year, during a Democratic administration, the number of insured Americans was at a record high of about 95%. Democrats worked for that. Then Trump comes in, the Republicans come in with their big, ugly bill, and they make cuts to Medicaid, cuts to hospitals and nursing homes, and no funding to extend the ACA tax credits. So what's going to happen? More and more people will have no health insurance. That's the bottom line. They will not have health insurance, and the Republicans don't seem to care. But I want you to know that the Democrats care and will continue to fight for you.
The gentleman yields. The gentlewoman from Connecticut reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Guam, my very good friend, Mr. Moylan.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you to my friend from Oklahoma. Mr. Speaker, Guam is home to 3,372 federal employees, more than 43,000 SNAP recipients, and over 9,000 WIC recipients, and more than 20,000 veterans, all of whom have been impacted by this shutdown. If we continue to put politics over our country, my constituents will continue to suffer. Simply put, this gets us back on track, ensures funding for those who need it is in place, and turns the lights back on. This bill ensures that families receive the assistance they need, veterans have access to care, and our island is reimbursed for the sacrifice we made to keep federal programs running during this difficult time. I urge my colleagues to support this bill and to deliver for American people. The time for deliberation is when the government is open and people have the assistance they need. I reserve.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman from Oklahoma reserves. The gentlewoman from Connecticut is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Massachusetts, the distinguished ranking member of the Ways and Means Committee, Mr. Neal.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank the gentlelady. Mr. Speaker, the destruction that is taking place in America's healthcare system during these 10 months is unbelievable. They've eviscerated the National Institutes of Health. They've cut back on the Centers for Disease Control, billions of dollars from Medicaid for a tax cut for the wealthy. Wait till you see what's coming to America's hospitals after the next election. It's so contrived they waited until after the election to implement it. 24 million people are likely to lose health insurance if we don't implement these tax credits as suggested. The emergency room is going to be back in full force now because this is where people will go for their health care. All of this is taking place to justify a tax cut for people at the very top. And here's the real kicker. Our Republican colleagues of fiscal probity borrowed the money for the tax cuts. In 2017, it's $2.4 trillion. In the last tax bill, almost $4 trillion is borrowed for a tax cut for wealthy people. Whatever happened to the fiscal soundness that the Republican Party used to lecture everybody on? And I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. The gentlewoman from Connecticut reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to my very good friend, the distinguished gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Muser.
The gentleman is recognized.
I thank Chairman Cole for his leadership. Mr. Speaker, if this were a library, we would have the fiction side over there and the nonfiction side over here. The only thing that's not fiction, however, is their consistent criticism of the health care system known as Obamacare that they created. That's what this fight seems to be about. And that's the one end of things that is truthful. Today, Mr. Speaker, after 6 weeks of no pain, or excuse me, lots of pain and no gain, they're going to vote again to keep the government closed. They're going to vote again. They're whipping their votes so they would not be paying federal workers. They won't be funding essential programs like SNAP and undo the chaos at our airports. Okay, I spent the last 43 days in my district talking with these groups, talking with SNAP, talking with Head Start, seeing their pain, realizing it, understanding it. Some of my colleagues did the same, but shockingly, they're still going to vote to keep the government closed and keep this funding from being delivered. It's time to fix the damage the Democrats have caused. With this vote tonight, Republicans will restore SNAP payments. We'll get TSA and air traffic control.
Yield the gentleman an additional 15 seconds.
And you know what, Thank you, Chairman. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? Yesterday was Veterans Day. Veterans didn't fight for the red. They didn't fight for the blue. They fought for the red, white, and blue. Maybe tonight we can follow their example. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman from Oklahoma reserves. The gentlewoman from Connecticut is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from Washington, Ms. Del Bene.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill fails to address the fundamental needs of families across our country. Americans have made it crystal clear that affordability is their #1 concern. President Trump and Republicans promised to lower costs on day one, and that's been one big broken promise. Healthcare premiums are skyrocketing because Republicans refuse to extend the ACA tax credits, causing healthcare costs to go up for everyone. Over 4 million people will be forced off their coverage next year because it's too expensive. This is on top of soaring prices for food, energy, and housing. It's unacceptable for the wealthiest nation in the world. Republicans who say they support affordable health care should be standing up for their constituents rather than following in line behind President Trump. I'm going to keep fighting for affordable health care and lower costs. The American people deserve better. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. The gentlewoman from Connecticut reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 90 seconds to my very good friend, the distinguished gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gooden.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Throughout this sham and shame of a shutdown, we've heard so many lies from the Democrats. And over the last 45 days, and especially the last 45 minutes, I've heard them say this is an evil bill Republicans don't care about the disabled. Trump is the worst president in history for children. They've said that Republicans are to blame for the fentanyl crisis. Republicans shouldn't take photos with veterans. January 6th, of course they mentioned that. Republicans are corrupt, and they've said that Republicans are starving kids. What they haven't said is the one thing that this bill does, which is open up the government. Not one Democrat is getting up here saying this bill opens the government. So let me remind them and my colleagues and the American people, this bill opens the government tonight. And the American people have Republicans to thank for ending this shutdown and opening the government. I urge a yes vote. I am proud to vote yes, and I am so disappointed in my Democratic colleagues, because for the life of me, throughout my time in the House, I've heard them talk about how wonderful it is to keep the government open and that a shutdown is so bad and can never happen. And tonight they won't even admit that this bill opens the government, and this is what we need for this country tonight. So I urge a yes vote, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman from Oklahoma reserves. The gentlewoman from Connecticut is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Barragan.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I oppose the Republican spending bill that makes health care more expensive for hardworking Americans. While Republicans were on their 7-week-plus vacation, all our constituents were receiving notices of premium increases. A constituent of mine, a lifelong educator, has been told that her premiums will jump from $383 to nearly $1,000. Meanwhile, Trump and Republicans can find money for a fancy ballroom. They can give tax breaks to billionaires. And they even included millions of dollars in cash payouts in this bill for 8 Republican senators. If anyone else in government gave themselves millions in taxpayer money, they would go to prison. But for Americans trying to afford health care, not $1 in tax credits. House Democrats are united against this corrupt bill and will keep fighting to protect America's health care. I urge my colleagues to reject this bill. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. The gentlewoman from Connecticut reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume. Mr. Speaker, it's been an interesting debate. Frankly, as a couple of my colleagues have suggested, a lot of the rhetoric on the other side hasn't had much to do with the legislation in front of us. My friends chose all on their own to shut the government down 43 days ago. During that time, soldiers have had to worry about getting paid. The only reason they were paid is the President of the United States managed to pull a rabbit out of the hat twice, or we've had military families completely unpaid. We have our air traffic controllers. Most of us flew here today or yesterday or in recent days. They're keeping the skies as safe as they can, but they haven't gotten paid. We're in this Capitol building. We're under the protection of the Capitol Police. They do a splendid job. They keep doing their job. They haven't been paid. We have people that are in desperate need of some of the services that this government has promised to give them. SNAP and WIC. That's at risk unless we pass this legislation tonight. So we can have all these debates about all these other issues. As a matter of fact, my friend the Speaker, his counterpart in the United States Senate, the Majority Leader, and the President have said, when you open the government, we'll be happy to talk to you about some of these issues. But you're not going to shut down the government, punish the American people, put people's lives at risk, and think we're going to sit down and negotiate with you under those circumstances. That is not going to happen. We told you 43 days ago, from bitter experience, government shutdowns don't work. They never achieve the objective that you announced. And guess what? You haven't achieved that objective yet, and you're not going to. We did the same thing twice, so I'm not saying that we've got clean hands over here. You guys did it on DACA, didn't work here, not going to work here. Only people that have suffered have been the American people, the people that we're all here to serve. So let's keep the focus on getting the government back open. I would also add, and I appreciate this very much, there have been robust discussions back and forth, and we have 3 appropriations bills attached to this. They're appropriations bills that do important things. The Ag bill will make sure that people that rely on WIC and SNAP don't have to worry about another government shutdown between now and September 30th of next year. The Ledge Branch bill will make sure that the Capitol Police and everybody else at staff that allow this chamber to function don't have to worry about not getting paid until September 30th of next year. And obviously, military construction and, more importantly, veterans rely on benefits commitments we have made. Passage of this bill makes sure that those commitments will be fulfilled between now and September 30th next year. And we buy the time to sit down and rationally and responsibly negotiate other appropriations bills that we can bring, I hope, in a bipartisan basis to this floor to keep the government open. So I would just ask my friends to reflect on that. I hope some of you feel the weight of that decision. I know you do. And I hope you can vote to keep the government open. There's no excuse to shut it down. The United States Senate operated to keep it open in a bipartisan fashion. Now, it took them a long time to do it, but they got there. Let's not follow that example. Let's follow when they finally got the job done, they sent us a product. It's not a perfect product. It's got some things in it I don't like. But frankly, if we kept the government open, we would have never been in this situation in the first place. So I would just ask my friends to remember their constituents. I know they think about them. I know they're serious about the points they make. Reopen the government. Raise your issues. Let's see if we can come to a negotiated settlement. But let's not punish the American people. A no vote on this, again, means soldiers and military families don't get paid. A no vote means that people in need of SNAP and WIC might not get it. A no vote means the people that allow us to come here and debate and work won't get paid either. I can go down the list, of course. It's pretty simple. This is a vote about two things. Opening the government of the United States, which you willfully tried to shut down, fortunately did not succeed in that in this chamber, but some of your colleagues, using arcane Senate rules, did manage to do it, but finally came to their senses. You ought to pay attention to those people. They said, enough is enough. Let's reopen the government. I would urge my colleagues to do that today, and I hope it's done in a bipartisan way. With that, I reserve the balance of my time, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman reserves, and members are reminded to direct their remarks only to the chair. The gentlewoman from Connecticut is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentlewoman from Massachusetts, the distinguished Democratic whip, Ms. Clark.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you. Donald Trump said the cost of living crisis is fake news, a con job by the Democrats. Mr. Speaker, 60% of Americans can't afford a basic quality of life. 45% have had to skip a doctor's appointment or a prescription because they can't afford it. 41% are living with medical debt. The American people are simply not making it. Not only is that crisis real, it is a crisis that Republicans promised to solve. Voters believe them. And now, after a 54-day hiatus, what are Republicans doing? They're voting to raise the cost of living. They're voting to make it even harder to get by. Not by some marginal amount. They are doubling, tripling, and quadrupling monthly premiums. And what's the defense? They are looking people in the eye and flat out gaslighting them. Costs aren't up, costs are down. Trump says, I don't want to hear about the affordability. Well, get used to hearing about it. You're going to hear about it a lot because people are feeling it every single day. People can't make rent. They can't afford their prescriptions. They can't afford to take their kid to a doctor. They can't find childcare, and when they find it, they can't afford that either. Grocery and utility bills are spiking. This is the crisis of our time, and it's about to get exponentially worse because the GOP's craven allegiance to billionaires over working people. The cost of living crisis is not fake news. It's not a perception issue. It is daily life for the people that we all represent. So let's do something about it. Let's reject this budget. Let's stop the health care cuts. Let's stop the premium hikes. Let's stop the hospital closures. And let's stop the billionaire giveaways. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields. The gentlewoman from Connecticut reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlewoman from Connecticut is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, this bill fails to prevent health care costs from skyrocketing. It fails to address the crisis of affordability. It fails to keep our promise to veterans. It provides a $1 million jackpot to 8 senators. It fails to protect Congress's power of the purse. I encourage my colleagues to vote no, and I have the honor of yielding 1 minute to the gentleman from New York, our distinguished Democratic leader, Mr. Hakeem Jeffries.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the distinguished gentlelady, the top Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, for yielding and for her steadfast leadership on behalf of working families, hard-working American taxpayers in the great state of Connecticut and all across America. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong opposition to this woefully inadequate spending bill that fails to decisively address the Republican health care crisis and fails to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for tens of millions of Americans. Mr. Speaker, before I say anything further, let me say to our men and women in uniform, to our active duty troops, to our hardworking federal employees, to our civil servants, to our TSA agents, to our Capitol Police, to our staff here in the House of Representatives, to our air traffic controllers, thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for the work that you do on behalf of the American people each and every day. And it's our promise to all of you that we will continue to work hard to make sure that you are treated with the dignity and respect that you deserve. In a year in which the Trump administration has gone after hard-working federal employees relentlessly, including firing more than 200,000 federal employees prior to the start of the Trump Republican shutdown. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Donald Trump and Republicans made the decision to shut the government down, the longest shutdown in American history. Would rather do that than provide health care that's affordable to working-class Americans, middle-class Americans, and hard-working American taxpayers. All across the country, I'm certain that there are people in America asking the question, where do we go from here? House Democrats have a simple answer. We will continue to fight to lower the high cost of living. House Democrats will continue to fight to address the health care crisis that Republicans have created. And House Democrats will continue to fight to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for tens of millions of Americans. This fight is not over. We're just getting started. We'll fight today. We'll fight tomorrow. We'll fight this week. We'll fight next week. We'll fight this month. We'll fight next month. We'll fight until we win this battle for the American people. That's our commitment as House Democrats. And there's only 2 ways that this fight will end. Only 2 ways, Mr. Speaker, that this fight will end. Either Republicans finally decide to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits this year, or the American people will throw Republicans out of their jobs next year and end the speakership of Donald J. Trump once and for all. That's how this fight ends. Mr. Speaker, during this painful Trump-Republican shutdown, what we've seen is 2 different philosophies in terms of how to govern for the American people. The Democratic Party philosophy is clear. We are ready, willing, and able to find bipartisan common ground anytime, any place, to enact spending agreements that actually make life better for the American people. But in order to do that, we need to have partners on the other side of the aisle who are actually willing to find a bipartisan path forward. But what we've seen from Republicans from the very beginning of this presidency is a my way or the highway approach. That's been the Republican philosophy. Jam your extremism down the throats of the American people. That's what we've seen from day one of this presidency. That's the reason why the government has been shut down by Republicans and Donald Trump for the longest period of time in American history. What have we seen from Donald Trump and Republicans during this shutdown? A consistent unwillingness to actually find common ground in order to make life better for the American people. Donald Trump, during this shutdown, found the time to play golf week after week after week. Donald Trump found the time to pardon serial fraudsters like George Santos and Rudolph Giuliani. Donald Trump found the time to meet with the Chinese Communist Party. Donald Trump found the time to destroy the East Wing of the White House. Donald Trump found the time to extort $230 million from the Department of Justice so he could line his pockets. Donald Trump found the time to bail out Argentina with $40 billion. Donald Trump found the time to rip away SNAP benefits from 42 million Americans. Mr. Speaker, these extremists are not like us. They're not like us. They have zero interest in fighting hard to make life better for the American people. Their philosophy, my way or the highway, our response, get lost. We're going to continue to fight hard on behalf of the American people. In the midst of a health care crisis and a cost of living crisis that is very real, despite what Donald Trump, the leader of the Republican Party, has to say, he claims there is no affordability crisis in the United States of America. But why would anyone believe anything that Donald Trump or Republicans have to say on this issue? Because throughout 2024, before the election, Republicans in the House and in the Senate and Donald Trump on the campaign trail spent all of their time saying that costs were going to go down on day one. But costs haven't gone down. Republicans haven't done a damn thing to lower the high cost of living. Costs haven't gone down in this country. Costs have gone up. Inflation is on the way up. Housing costs out of control. Grocery costs out of control. Electricity bills out of control. Healthcare costs skyrocketing out of control. And in the midst of this affordability crisis, seeing this, Democrats said, we've got to fight to make sure that we extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits so that tens of millions of people, working class folks, middle class folks, people in rural America, working class America, small town America, the heartland of America, black and brown communities all throughout America, don't experience premium increases that in some cases will go up by $1,000 or $2,000 per year. In many cases, month after month after month, $1,000 or $2,000 per month, tens of thousands of dollars per year. Unacceptable in this country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And this is in the midst of a Republican health care crisis. Republicans enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, ripped health insurance away from 14 million Americans. As a result of Republican policies, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing all across America, including in rural parts of this great country of ours. And now, because of Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, tens of millions of Americans are at risk of being unable to afford to go see a doctor when they need one. In this country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, it can't be the case that health care is simply a privilege for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. Mr. Speaker, that's the Republican perspective. We believe as Democrats that health care has to be a right, and a right that's affordable and available to every single American in the United States. That's what this fight is all about. And that's what the fight will continue to be about as we move forward. Many of my Republican colleagues have suggested that they want to deal with the health care affordability issue, that they want to address the Republican health care crisis that's devastating people all across this country. Well, we have an opportunity for you to do so. There's a discharge petition connected to legislation that House Democrats have introduced to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for 3 years, because we believe that working-class Americans, middle-class Americans, and everyday Americans deserve the same level of certainty that Republicans always provide to the wealthy, the well-off, and their well-connected donors. Working-class Americans deserve that level of certainty. So join us in extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits. It's not too late. We're in the midst of open enrollment, but the tax credits expire on December 31st. And we will stay on this issue until we get this issue resolved for everyday Americans. Mr. Speaker, as I close, I've had the opportunity, as many of us do, to serve in the United States Congress with legendary figures, too numerous to mention. Legendary members, of course, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, the great Jim Clyburn, Maxine Waters, Elijah Cummings, Charlie Rangel, our own Marcy Kaptur, the longest-serving woman in the history of the United States House of Representatives. We've all had the opportunity to serve with legendary members, John Dingell, too numerous to mention. But one can't call that roll without calling the name of the great John Lewis. I had the distinct honor of serving with John Lewis for several terms. Many of us here in the House of Representatives did. I'll never forget, on my first day in the Congress, I had the opportunity to meet John Lewis for the first time in person. And he called me over to see him on the House floor, and he just asked me a simple question. He said, "Are you the new guy?" And I said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Lewis, I am." And he said, "Well, we're colleagues now. You don't have to call me Mr. Lewis. You can call me John." I said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Lewis, I understand." And then he said to me, "You're from Brooklyn, right?" Now, Mr. Speaker, I got to be honest, I was tempted to say, Brooklyn is always in the house. But instead, since my mother raised me with some sense, Lenita Jeffries, I said, "Yes, sir, I'm from Brooklyn." And then he said something to me that I've never forgotten. He said, "Well, I hear some positive things about you from your predecessor, but Washington, D.C., young man, can be a rough place. So I don't want you to get into any trouble unless it's good trouble." And I just wanted to stop by on the House floor to make sure it was clear to the American people that the spirit of John Lewis lives amongst House Democrats, and we will continue to get into good trouble to make their life better. That's our commitment to every single American all across this country, from this day and for every day moving forward. And it was John Lewis who said to us that ours is not the struggle of one day, 1 week, or 1 year. Ours is the struggle of a lifetime, and maybe even many lifetimes. And each one of us in every generation must do our part. Mr. Lewis, we love you. We were blessed by our opportunity to serve with you, and House Democrats are here to do our part. We're in this fight until we win this fight for the American people. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities towards the president. The gentlewoman from Connecticut has 30 seconds remaining and is recognized.
I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlewoman from Connecticut yields. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's my distinct pleasure to yield the balance of our time to the distinguished Speaker of the House, my very good friend and a person I admire greatly.
1 minute. 1 minute.
I'm actually just going to hold you to 1 minute, Mr. Speaker. My good friend, the gentleman from Louisiana, Speaker Mike Johnson.
The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized.
Thank you. I want to thank my friend Chairman Cole's done an extraordinary job in this process. And Mr. Speaker, we all know why we're here. House Democrats voted to shut the government down. It was 54 days ago when we had that vote, September 19th. And since that time, Senate Democrats have voted 14 times to close the government. Republicans voted a collective 15 times to open the government for the people, and the Democrats voted that many times to close it. And then they admitted, many of them, and we could name them here, but I'm not going to take the time, they admitted that they were using the American people as leverage in this political game. They knew that it would cause pain, and they did it anyway. The whole exercise was pointless. It was wrong, and it was cruel. In mere moments, I want you to watch the board. They're going to do it again. I'm going to guess for you that most of our Democrat colleagues are going to vote again to close the government, again to take food out of the mouths of families that need it, again to deny pay to federal employees, again to stall flights and cancel airlines and do all the rest that they've done. But we are not going to let them succeed in that gambit, and that's right. While the Democrats keep voting to shut the government down, Republicans are going to vote to open it back up. And with that, we're going to get the American government running again and working for the people as they deserve. I'm going to close with this. You know, as Speaker, you have the ability to talk as long as you want, but I'm not going to do that tonight. We're not going to waste any more time of the people. I'm just going to say this. I think that everybody needs to remember this one simple thing. From the very beginning of this whole ordeal, on the Republican side, we operated in good faith. We offered a clean, nonpartisan CR. We were honest and transparent with the American people from the very beginning, and every single day of the shutdown, we went out and looked right into the camera with a press conference and told the American people the simple truth. We have done for the people what has been right and just and truthful. And in the end, that is what God honors always. Don't forget it. We need to get this government open as soon as possible, and I'm going to yield back the remainder of my time so we can do that. The American people demand it and deserve it. My friends, let's get this done. Thank you. I yield back.
Proud of you.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman from Oklahoma has 3 minutes remaining and is recognized.
I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 873, the previous question is ordered. The question is on the motion by the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Cole. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chairs, the ayes have it. For what purpose does the gentleman from Connecticut stand?
Mr. Speaker, I request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote.
Like you heard from the chair, as the House tees up this vote now on the bill to end the government shutdown, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break and continue with the House coverage there tonight out of D.C. We'll be right back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here to Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. House members are just beginning to vote on ending the government shutdown. As we take you out to a live look right now, you can see the yeas and nays. They have about 14 minutes left on the clock to finish this vote. But House members returning to Washington today for the vote this evening on the Senate amended bill that was passed in the Senate on Monday night and went back to the lower chamber to vote on it so that they could end this shutdown, which has now continued for 43 days, the longest in U.S. history. The stopgap measure funding federal agencies, this would happen through December, and actually they would approve this continuing resolution to fund the government until January 30th, and that would take us through the holidays as far as air traffic goes, with a lot of TSA agents and air traffic controllers as of late making headlines. But both chambers facing mounting pressure to act with a lot of services strained, SNAP cuts also feeling the pinch there, with many American families affected on the table, and still a bit of the sticking point, really a lot of the pain point is the health care and extending tax credits to continue the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, because those tax credits would expire, are due to expire the end of the year. But as you can see there, they are voting right now. It seems to be on party lines with 103 yeas to 111 nays. It did take 8 Democrats to cross the aisle in the Senate to go ahead and to take their 60 votes. 60 votes is what they needed to get back to the House. So House members coming back together here for the first time, reconvening for a session, the first time since September 19th. And as they continue that vote, we will just continue to also have that monitored and bring in an expert to recap and debrief on this House vote that is expected to reach an end, at least end the government shutdown for now, with funding only taking us through January 30th. But coming back out here now on Live Impact News, we will continue to follow that again. But Governor Josh Stein in Charlotte today on some local economic news that will affect the Charlotte economy and bring some jobs to the area. Mayor Vi Lyles also in on this announcement. Let's go ahead and replay this press conference from earlier today on WCNC Plus.
Especially many of our colleagues that are here. I see several council members. Just give them a hand because it's just been a long time coming, so please. So, I get the good fortune to attend many official functions on behalf of our city. And while they all hold their own significance, some of them include more of a special interest for me. Today's announcement is one of those events. I want to thank our state and local leaders, our business and community partners, our city and county economic development teams, and all of you who make moments like this possible, because we're here to celebrate something big. We can't just share the name yet, but we can share what it means for our city. Now, if you went beyond first grade, you're probably okay. So this is what I would say. North Carolina was named the #1 state for business again this year. That's because we work together. We invest in our people. We build communities that attract jobs, talent, opportunity. Charlotte reflects that success. We're one of the fastest growing cities in America. We're home to a globally connected airport, a top 10 in the country. Our workforce is skilled and motivated. It's no surprise that a country would come and look at our city and say, that's where we belong. This decision brings new energy to Plaza Midwood. It brings jobs, it brings growth, it brings optimism for what's next. I cannot be more proud of how far we've come and even more excited for where we're headed. It is now my pleasure to meet a wonderful man that serves as the 76th governor of North Carolina, the Honorable Josh Stein.
Thank you, Mayor, for the introduction and for the warm welcome. Good to see so many other City of Charlotte officials in the room. Mark Jarrell, Chairman of the County Commission, and there are a number of other Mecklenburg County officials here, and David Longo and others from the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. Pleased to see some legislators here as well. They play a critical role in making sure that we as a state can do everything we can to lean forward to recruit businesses to come to North Carolina. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I am here to make a pretty exciting announcement. If you saw or heard us drive up here, you probably know what it's going to be. Scout Motors is establishing its global corporate headquarters right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. What does that mean? It means 1,200 new high-quality jobs in this state. Jobs in corporate leadership, R&D, marketing, IT, and a variety of other business functions. Scout will make more than a $200 million investment into the state. And over the next 12 years, this project will add nearly $5 billion to our state's economy. The way I see it, North Carolina was always the perfect choice for Scout's new headquarters. Took a second to get the whole team there, but we knew from the minute, from the get-go, we were the right place. As Vi said, the top-ranked state for business in the country in 2025, third time in the last 4 years. That's because our top-tier research universities and community colleges, our business-friendly climate, our leadership in the clean energy economy, and our unmatched quality of life. But above all, it's our people. Our highly skilled workforce makes businesses want to establish themselves and grow here. And that makes people want to move here and settle. So Scout, I cannot wait for you to get to experience everything that our state has to offer. This announcement is a result of a strong collaboration by company executives, state and local elected officials from both parties, and state, local, and nonprofit economic development professionals. I want to thank Secretary Lilly and his team at the Department of Commerce for all their work on this project. I also want to thank the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. Chris Chung is the leader right here as well. The North Carolina General Assembly, as I already acknowledged. The North Carolina Community College System, in particular, Central Piedmont Community College. The UNC system, including UNC Charlotte and North Carolina A&T University, the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, Charlotte Works, the County of Mecklenburg, and the City of Charlotte. Economic development is a team sport. Each entity I mentioned, and a number I probably didn't, played an essential role in today's good news. And to the folks at Scout, we all say welcome home to North Carolina. We're excited that you're revitalizing an iconic American brand and building the next generation vehicle company right here in the Carolinas. At this time, I'm going to bring forward Scott Keogh, the CEO of Scout Motors, to receive a gift. This is a vase designed by North Carolina potter Ben Owen, and on it, it reads the state motto, Esse quam videre. Malcolm, that means to be rather than to seem. Beautiful. And right now, by investing in North Carolina, Scout Motors is exemplifying to be rather than to seem. We look forward to all that you create here. We thank you for your belief in this state. And I, for one, am excited to see some bad boy SUVs and trucks on North Carolina's highways. Scott, thank you. Come on forward. Thank you very much.
Mayor Lyles, Governor Stein, thank you very much, and to all of you, it's an absolute pleasure to be here in your city, in your state, and celebrate this moment. I think the governor is right. It's been a long ride, but when you arrive at the right place, well, it's called a beautiful journey, and that's, I think, exactly what we have here. So look, I know everyone wants to hear from a man in a blue suit with gray hair and reading glasses, but what I think might be a better way to go is let's take a look at a video and I'll give you a good synopsis of what we're up to and why we're doing it. So if we could run the video, that'd be greatly appreciated.
When we started out, we honestly wondered, could we do it? Could we start with dirt and end up with something enduring? Could we show America the way to build things again? Could we demonstrate that companies today can still have the backs of their workers? Could we haul the best values of the past into a promising future? Could we connect people to each other in all 50 states in both work and play? Could we tap the passion of a community and expand it? Could we do all of that with a truck? A new world meets old world, true off-roading, body-on-frame, American-built truck with 1,000 pound-feet of torque and a game-changing powertrain. We are here today to answer unequivocally, yes. As we speak, there's a factory rising to life in South Carolina. Brick by brick, we are building to meet our ambition. And today, right here in North Carolina, we put down new roots that form the foundation of it all, from which more ingenuity, more human flourishing, more can-do spirit will flow. Charlotte, we are proud to call you the new home of the Scout Motors headquarters. Together, we will forge a new future, a future that starts now. So let's get to work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Look, it's quite a powerful thing, but 3 years ago we were two employees with an idea, and the idea obviously is not just to bring back a relic, but bring back a revolution and bring back getting America back to manufacturing things, dreaming things, and doing things again. And that's exactly what we're up to. If you look at the update, I think it couldn't be clearer. I think you'll see them momentarily. We've designed an absolutely stunning vehicle that's packed with innovation. We've engineered a...
All right, take you back out here now on Live Impact News just at 8:16. It seems that time has run out. The vote has ended there on the House floor. Let's go ahead and go to that live right now, as it looks like that they still have 19 who did not vote. 19 outstanding. We're still waiting for those final votes to come in. But right now, looks like 211 yeas to 205 nays to pass the Senate amendment, with the House voting for the shutdown to end. As we are looking in, let's go ahead and listen in and just take a peek in and see what's happening there on the House floor now on Live Impact News. All right, so it appears that still getting those last votes tallied in. 15 left. Voting has ended, though, with the electronic vote now on agreeing to go ahead and pass this funding package that would reopen the government. The federal government after 43 days, making it the longest federal government shutdown in American history. We do know that the House convened and got back into session for the first time today since September 19th. And they were on a sticking point on the Affordable Care Act for the longest time. That is still a bit of a can going down the road here, as they have not extended, they've not agreed or put on the table in this gap fund to work on the Affordable Care Act, because those tax credits are expiring. But we do know now that we're waiting for 11 more votes, but it looks like that the Republicans, most of the Republicans, we have 2 nays from the Republicans, though, saying that they did not want to pass the funding package, but 5 Democratic votes now voting for this package to continue and at least until January 30th, with 10 more votes to be counted. So we can get the government back up and running. This, assuming that it is passed and it is official, it would go to the president's desk tonight, and that it could end the federal government tonight. So we are still waiting for the final count with 9 votes, 217 yeas to 207. And with that, now it appears that it will be a clear win to go ahead and end this government shutdown. So I want to bring in right now to break down this historic vote. What comes next? The longest in modern U.S. history. We have Mitch McCokai from the John Locke Foundation. Mitch, thanks for joining us here on Live Impact News. Appreciate your time tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. Obviously a very important vote, and everyone who's been watching down very closely is happy to see a final resolution to it, and it will get, of course, the final finality once this vote does wrap up in the next few minutes and the bill ends up heading to President Trump.
Yeah, so I was kind of all over the place there, just because so much has happened, right, since the shutdown. And walk us through a little bit then what happened on the floor tonight and what this final vote tells us.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, if you listen to it, and most people really didn't have to listen to it, because if you listen to a couple of speakers, one on both the Republican side and one on the Democratic side, you heard the rest of the arguments, because as the joke goes, everything has been said, but not everyone has said it. And then they repeated some of the same points. Basically, Republicans are saying it's time to open up the government again. Let's get things back going, pay people who've been furloughed, operate services again, make sure that the flights are going to be running as normal. Whereas the Democrats were saying, hey, Republicans, why aren't you allowing us to have the extension of these Obamacare or Affordable Care Act healthcare subsidies? That's something that Americans need, and you aren't dealing with it. And that was the reason why they had withheld votes to have the government remain open in the first place. So after those all those arguments were said and done, the bill passed, I think, as everyone expected. Probably maybe a little bit of surprise that there were a handful of Democrats who said yes to the reopening and a handful of Republicans who said no. But there were enough Democratic yes votes to outweigh any Republican no votes, and certainly enough to push the bill over the finish line. Really, the main piece of this debate ended on the Senate side when 8 Democrats decided to, or those who caucus with Democrats, decided to break with that caucus and go with the Republicans, because that was really where the stalemate was. If this had been just left to the House, we never would have seen a shutdown. There would have been a very close vote, but because Republicans have the majority and don't need to reach into any sort of supermajority, they would have been able to keep the government open with a very close vote, with Republicans holding a slight majority in the House. But since the Senate has the filibuster and Democrats were able to use that to try to get some leverage to get these Affordable Care Act health subsidies passed, even though they had been taken away in the so-called one big beautiful bill, that was really what was keeping the government closed. Was that the Democrats in the Senate figured we can make this demand and Republicans will cave. Republicans did not cave, and so eventually enough Democrats decided, well, this has gone on long enough. Let's get what we can. And what they did get was that there will be an up or down vote, at least on the Senate side, about whether to revive these tax credits. And presumably, if the deal goes forward as it was planned, people will be put on record either saying yes or no to these subsidies moving forward. One would have to guess that the vote will be no, because Republicans do have a majority in the Senate. but that will put them on record as voting no, and Democrats will certainly try to use that to their advantage when they head to the midterms next year. As for what happens next, of course, the House sends the bill as quickly as it can to President Trump. He will sign it when he has already signaled he's going to sign it, so he will sign it whenever he feels it's most advantageous to do so. The government will then reopen, and then it will be interesting to see what that means in terms of actually getting the government services restarted that had to shut down. It's not as if you flip the light switch and everything comes back on. I could tell you, following federal court cases fairly closely, there's one involving North Carolina where the lawyers from the government who were involved, the federal government who were involved, asked for the case to be put on hold because they were not allowed to take part in the case while the government was shut down. And they asked the federal judge in that case to say, once the federal government reopens, give them 2 weeks and then they'll be able to start again. Now, most government functions that have been shut down will be back much more quickly than that, but you do have to have that ramp up time. People who haven't known when the shutdown was going to end aren't immediately, as of now, 8:25 at night, automatically going to be back in the office and back at doing their work again. Some may be back on the job tomorrow. Some, though, it might take a little while to ramp things back up. So I'm guessing that it's going to take, especially since this was the longest shutdown we've ever seen, that it may take a little while to get everything back to normal.
Mitch, we talk about the Affordable Care Act, the subsidies that are expiring at the end of the year, and the 20 million potential Americans that could see their insurance premiums increase. The Senate vote, they got the promise of a vote in December, but no guarantee that it passes. Did the Democrats give away too much then this go round?
Well, certainly the critics of this deal on the Democratic side say they did. I mean, they basically were urging their members to stick with this plan and get the Republicans to cave. And that isn't what happened. You've seen ever since the Senate deal came out, lots of calls among the progressives really calling Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate, on the carpet for his inability to keep the Democrats together on this issue. It remains to be seen. But I think probably the best guess is that when voters head to the polls for the next time in a general election, which is about a year from now, this will be sort of in the distance. If anyone remembers it at all, they probably really won't factor this much into their decisions in November. So I don't know that it's going to have a major electoral impact one way or the other. But in terms of trying to get those subsidies passed, certainly it seems much less likely that that's going to happen now than it might have seemed while the government was shut down and it was unclear which side was going to break first. There is the promise, as you mentioned, and we've discussed a little bit, that there will be a vote on the Senate side, but there's no promise that that issue will pass. And Republicans, in allowing the subsidies to expire, have said, look, this was always designed to be temporary. These are incredibly expensive subsidies, and we're putting ourselves trillions of dollars in debt. This is the type of thing we can't allow to continue because it's not sustainable. So much within the federal government is unsustainable. And if something can't continue forever, eventually it's going to end. And they're saying this is something that was always designed to be temporary. It's time for it to end now. The Affordable Care Act was passed years ago, 3 presidential administrations ago. And so now it's time for it to end. Democrats, of course, are going to continue to make the call to do something about this. We heard, if you were listening to the debate, Hakeem Jeffries, the House leader for the Democrats, saying they're going to continue to push on this week, this month, next month, into next year. And he basically said the only way that this is going to end is that the Republicans change their mind, or that voters change their mind for them by knocking them out and putting the Democrats back in. I think most people who are watching the situation closely in terms of what comes up in the midterms are saying that the midterms, regardless of conditions that are going to be top of mind for voters when they head to the polls, would look at this as 2026, that is, as a good year for Democrats. You've got a new Republican administration, and usually when the White House changes hands, the first midterm after that takes place is bad for the party that's in power. So that would mean bad news for the Republicans, good news for the Democrats. If they have economic conditions that cause concerns for the American people, as we seem to see in the elections that just took place, that would also be good news for Democrats. And so it's entirely possible that a very closely split House that's now led by Republicans could flip back to the Democrats. Maybe a little bit less of a chance that the Senate goes back to Democrats, but certainly if they win at least one chamber, that means much less likelihood of Republicans getting much of what they wanted passed in the next 2 years of the Donald Trump administration. And you would probably see much more likelihood that the president would try to do more by executive action than he's already been doing.
Well, the bill goes now to the president's desk, and but this might end too, right? We only have funds until January 30th. So are we going to be the same place in, a few weeks from now?
Well, it's certainly a threat. I mean, that is something that we have seen in the past, and certainly during the two Trump administrations, we've now seen the two longest shutdowns, one of over 30 days and now one of over 40 days. So once it happens once, it's likely that it could happen again. My guess is, though, that as you get closer and closer to an election, both sides are going to look at this and say, is it going to be worth our while? Did we see any sort of uptick or rise in support or decrease in support because of the last shutdown? Is it going to be more likely that people will remember a shutdown that takes place in January as opposed to one that took place in November? All of those political calculations are going to be taking place, but you can be certain that this at least is going to be a threat in the background when we get to the end of January.
And again, with air traffic control being kind of top of mind and the holiday travel rush just around the corner, again, people are concerned about when we're going to get back up to speed. You think this ramp up time is going to be relatively short?
Well, my guess is for the air traffic controller issue, I would think that certainly by the time people are traveling for Thanksgiving, that things would be back to normal. I don't know that it's going to happen within the next couple of days because no one has really known exactly when the shutdown was going to end. We got a sense once the Senate came up with its deal, so perhaps the folks who are in charge of the air traffic controllers have been making plans that, okay, if the House really does finish it on Wednesday and it gets to Donald Trump, when would we be able to get things back up to normal? So let's hope that they had been planning that. But my suspicion is that certainly by the time you see the heaviest planned traffic for the Thanksgiving holiday, that they would be back to normal. But that remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm. And big picture, Mitch, what should Americans brace for now entering 2026?
Well, I'm guessing you're going to see more political brinkmanship and gamesmanship. Of course, that always happens even more in an election year than it does in the off year. So they're going to continue to fight, the Democrats and Republicans, over their priorities. Because there is no 60 votes for either party in the Senate, that means that on that side, the minority party, which in this case is the Democrats, has more leverage and will have opportunity, as long as the filibuster is around, to be able to throw a monkey wrench into the system. We've heard President Trump call for ending the filibuster. I think Republicans, realizing how it has worked to their advantage when Democrats have been in charge, are a little bit reluctant to do that. So as long as that filibuster is in place, you're going to see a very difficult time for any Republican-only legislation to pass, and it becomes even more so, more difficult during an election year. And I think the partisan rhetoric that we're already seeing will certainly ramp up as both sides make their case to the American people.
Mitch Kokai from the John Locke Foundation. Appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for weighing in, and the insight was great.
Thanks so much.
All right. Well, the funding package bill has passed. It is passed the House. It is now heading to the president's desk, and it is expected that he signs that around 9:45 tonight. We'll bring that to you here on Live Impact News. For now, we'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back to Live Impact News on WCNC Plus at 8:36. I'm Jane Monreal. A press conference held earlier today with an update on the UPS Louisville plane crash that killed 14 people. They named the victims this morning. This aired earlier on WCNC Plus. We will replay this press conference for you now here on Live Impact News.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us here today at Louisville Metro Hall. Just a couple quick updates. NTSB still remains at the site investigating the cause of the crash. Our teams have continued their outreach to businesses that have been impacted and to give them access to their property that is still restricted. LMPD is continuing to provide 24/7 coverage of this restricted area to protect the integrity of the investigation and also to protect public safety during these times. Our teams are working to reopen Grade Lane and all roads as quickly as we possibly can. This morning, I had an opportunity to stop by the Okolona Fire Department to thank the men and women of Okolona Fire for their incredible first response, being some of the first folks that were on the scene, being the lead fire department on the scene. They working in partnership with Louisville Fire and the other fire departments was truly incredible. Additionally, as we mentioned yesterday, a new hotline has been set up for anyone who has been impacted by the crash. That call center number again is 502-473-5271. That is open now. It will be open all days from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday. If you owned a business that was impacted, if you have lost your job as a result of being impacted, if you have been injured in some other way, if you believe that you have been negatively impacted by the crash, that is the number to reach out. Additionally, when you reach out, there may be an opportunity. We are getting ready to open tomorrow a community resource center. This community resource center will be by appointment that you can make by calling that line. It will be located at 200 High Rise Drive, right off of Fern Valley Road by I-65, to meet with individuals that can help you with the challenges that you may be facing as a result of the tragic UPS crash. One other person I want to thank is here with us today, and that's our Jefferson County Coroner, Joanne Farmer. Her and her team have been working tirelessly under incredibly challenging conditions around the clock to help recover all of the victims of this plane crash, to identify the bodies in the challenging conditions, and to notify the families of their losses. This work has been incredibly challenging, but great care has been taken by Joanne and her team, working as rapidly as possible so that identifications could be made as quickly as possible. At this point in time, we believe that all of the victims have been located, have been identified, and that families have been notified. So now I'd like to ask our Jefferson County Coroner, Joanne Farmer, to share a little bit more about the process and to also share with the community the list of the 14 victims who we lost in this tragic plane crash.
It really saddens me to have to be here and speaking to you about such a tragedy. All 14 victims have been identified. They were identified by DNA, some by DNA and dental records, some by DNA and medical records, but all of them were positively identified by the DNA. We finished this completion of testing about less than 24 hours ago, and it was all complete. All of the victims' families have been notified, and we've been working closely with them throughout this whole process. I'll go ahead and release the names now. On Flight 2976, Captain Dana Diamond, 62 years old. Captain Richard Wartenberg, 57 years old. First Officer Lee Truitt, 45 years old. Angela Anderson, 45 years old. Carlos Fernandez, 52 years old. Louisness Fedden, 47 years old. And Kimberly Asa, who was the granddaughter, 3 years old, of Mr. Fedden. Trinidad Trina Chavez, 37 years old. Continuing, there's Tony Crane, 65 years old. John Locks, 52 years old. John Spray, 45 years old. Matthew Sweets, 37 years old. Ella Petty Orton, 31 years old. And Megan Washburn, 35 years old. And on behalf of the entire coroner's office, to all the families, please accept again our sincere condolences for your tragic loss. Okay.
Thank you, Joanne. Thanks again to you and your entire team for the professionalism and the empathy that you all have shown. I know what a difficult process this must have been. Today, as we share the names of those who we've lost, our city feels the full weight of this unimaginable tragedy. Behind every one of these names is a circle of family, friends, stories that will forever be unfinished. I've heard it said that everyone dies twice. Once when you take your last breath, and again when your name is spoken for the last time. So as we hear these names today, let's never forget their lives, their laughter, their love, and all that they meant. Each of these victims represents a life full of purpose, interrupted far too soon, and also a life that will never fade, because we will always remember them. We will take care of their loved ones, walk with them through grief, and honor the lives they built by always saying their names. Captain Dana Diamond, Captain Richard Wartenberg, First Officer Lee Truitt, Angela Anderson, Carlos Fernandez, Trina Chavez, Tony Crane, John Lux, John Spray, Matthew Sweets, Ella Petty Wharton, Megan Washburn, Luisness Faden, and his granddaughter, Kimberly. May their memories be a blessing. May their memories strengthen us. May their families find comfort in knowing we stand beside them not just today, but in all of the difficult days ahead. The funerals for these victims will begin in the coming days. And I ask our community, I ask the media to please respect the privacy of these families. If they request private funerals, please respect their privacy during these incredibly challenging times for the families of these 14 victims. During these times of tragedy and tragic loss, we also saw incredible acts of heroism, incredible acts of bravery, and fantastic public service. I've heard from the NTSB, from other federal partners, folks around the region, about the incredible work the first responder teams have done in response to UPS Flight 2976. And one of the ways that we provided a fantastic public service, I believe, during these challenging times is through the work of LMPD and their support of the victims' families over the past week. LMPD led that part of our response, and so now I'd like to call on Chief Paul Humphrey to talk a little bit more about that process and the work that they have been doing and will continue to do to support the families of each of these 14 victims. Chief Humphrey.
While we send our prayers and condolences to the families, there's going to be times where there will be stories that will be told about each one of the victims. But there's stories that will need to be told about everyone else as well. All of the first responders that rushed towards that fire and put their lives on the line. The employees of Grade A Auto Parts, one who tackled another employee in order to save his life, and then he got up and pulled the other one through the fire to get out. How Sean Garber has taken care of his employees, and his heart's just pouring out to them. He's doing everything he can to make sure that they get taken care of. But one of the things I do want to talk about is our victim services unit and how they were there from the very beginning to make sure that the families were taken care of in any way that we could. From the moment this crash happened, the victim services unit stood up the Family Assistance Center over at our training academy. And what they did was they made sure that all of the questions that we could answer, even though there were few, got answered for the families. They made sure that the families ate. They made sure they had something to drink. They made sure that they could help connect them to the victims that were at the hospital. They kept them informed and they comforted them as much as possible. And when it came time for the end of the night, when we knew that there was no more work to be done that particular night, and we were not going to be able to give them any more information, they were talking about asking them to go home, pet your dog, hug your kids, just get a little bit of rest if you can. And so what I told them is it's okay to shut this down for the night. And they said, nope, we're going to stay here all night because if somebody shows up at 3 o'clock in the morning, we need to be here for them. And so for 2 days, our victim services unit worked 24 hours. And they stayed there making sure that anyone who needed anything had a resource that they could reach out to. And we hope that that type of service gave them just a little bit of comfort in the worst days of their life. And that's the type of work that you see from public service. That's what public service is about. It's about a test of character in the worst times possible and being able to be there for people when they need it the most. And I think that's what we saw, not just from LMPD, not just from the fire department, but we saw it from the average citizen, the average friend, the average family member, who, when their character was tested, they stepped up and showed what Louisville's all about.
Thanks, Chief. We'll take some questions from the media in a moment here, but just again to reiterate, for anyone else who is a survivor, who has been otherwise impacted by the crash, please call 502-473-5271 for some assistance. And again, that's every day except for Sunday, 7 a.m., 9 p.m. And you can make an appointment to speak in person with someone at the Community Resource Center that will be open at those same hours starting tomorrow. And again, to the families of the 14 victims, our condolences. We will continue to be here to support you in the weeks, months, and years ahead. May each of your loved ones' memories be a blessing. We're now happy to take some questions from members of the media. Stefan.
Mr. Mayor, could you talk about what services or what's being done or offered to those families of those 14 people from the city?
So there are several categories. The question about what is being done for the families of the victims. UPS set up the original phone number and response in addition to what you just heard the chief talk about, the support services that LMPD is providing if additional services are needed from other agencies. When it comes to financial and other support for each of these victims and their families, the UPS has been taking the lead on that right now in direct contact with each of the families. Everyone is going to have different needs. Of course, everyone has a funeral to come to pay for. But beyond that, there are so many other impacts that each one of these victims left for their families, and they'll be handling each one of those individually.
Mayor, how confident are you that no other victims will be found at this site?
The question was about how confident are we that no other victims will be found at the site. Right now, we have no reason to believe that there are any other victims at this site. The names that were on the lists that were copiously made by all of the people at the Victim Family Center that you just heard the chief talk about, the names of those that are missing match the names of those who the coroner has identified as victims. The other individuals who were originally on that list that first night, LMPD has made contact with those other individuals, and so that we know, fortunately, they were not involved. There was some other reason that they were on that list, but they were not a victim of this crash. Yes?
Mayor, it's been just over a week since this crash happened. What's on your heart today?
Well, what's on my heart today is just an emptiness, a feeling of loss for each of these 14 families. They certainly, the chief and I saw it that very first night when we were both at the Family Resource Center, and simply hugging the loved ones of people who were right there next to us, calling their family member and hearing the phone go right to voicemail time after time after time again, texting them and getting no response. They knew what the likely answers were at that time, but to have that certainty is, I hope, helpful closure for them. I know it certainly is not easy to hear, but I hope that with this certainty, their grieving can continue and turn to healing, and that they can begin to find ways to move forward, to recover from this trauma, and find joy and happiness in life once again, knowing it will never be the same without their loved one.
This can't be easy for first responders who are at the scene, have been at the scene from the beginning. Have you guys provided any services for them at all, for the officers and the firefighters and paramedics?
The question was about services that are provided to first responders. They are aware of there are support services that we have here in Louisville Metro government. And I believe that Oklahoma Fire Department and the other departments have also lined up additional services for first responders if they feel the need to speak with someone during this time, if certain people needed some time off as a result of the length of time that they stayed out at the crash site. But that has been accommodated as well. So we've been working with that on a case-by-case basis.
Mayor, can you...
Businesses back there, a lot of the business owners left their businesses on a lot. When will they get a chance to go back there, or people who have vehicles?
So the question was about businesses that they still don't have access to, or vehicles that were left behind. We have reached out, our emergency responders, emergency management team has reached out to businesses that we're aware of in this location to provide them with sort of escorted access to their property to get anything that they need, or to keep their business functioning as best as they can. In terms of when they will have full access to the property, we just don't know yet. Public safety comes first. The investigation is being completed. We know the pressure that we feel that we're putting on ourselves to get people back into their businesses, to get back going again. There are employees that are right now without a job because businesses are closed. We want them to get back into business. So we're working as hastily as we can, but of course public safety comes first, and the NTSB needs to be able to complete their aspects of the investigation to give us access.
I'm sorry. Can you share any new information that the NTSB may have communicated to you about their work on the site, and also how much longer they'll be at the site?
The question was about NTSB and any new information and how long they'll be on the site. I defer those questions to the NTSB. They're the primary point of contact to release that information publicly. And I know they're working incredibly hard every single day. They didn't let the cold and the snow flurries, they didn't let that deter them from being out there to continuing to work. Other agencies, such as the EPA that was just with us yesterday, is continuing their work as well. I think it's a more complicated and larger debris field than they originally thought. And so I think it's going to take a little bit longer than they thought. How to measure that, I defer those questions to them. I don't want to get ahead of the NTSB on that.
Mayor Greenberg, who makes that final decision on when Great Lane reopens?
Right now, it's the NTSB. I mean, we're giving them access to the site. They've got control to make sure that they can continue their investigation. At the same time, we're doing all the things that we believe we need to do from a public safety perspective, so that when they no longer need it.
We do have some breaking news right now here at 8:57. According to the NBC station in Chicago, Reverend Jesse Jackson is currently in the hospital. The civil rights icon, who gained national and worldwide acclaim, currently hospitalized in Chicago. He is 84 years old. We do know he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease back in 2017 and has taken more of a backseat role in a lot of the civil rights movements that he has pushed forward, including Push Coalition. So we will try to learn more about Jackson's hospitalization. But again, the 84-year-old Jackson is in a hospital in Chicago. We do know that the House passed the funding bill that will fund the government until the end of January. They are reconvening tomorrow at 9 o'clock. That will be here on Live Impact News. I'll see you on WCNC Charlotte at 11. Have a great night.